It's late afternoon here in late winter, early spring. I am standing in our neighbor's landscape here, just next door to where Sasha and I live. That's our home back there. And for those of you that watch the channel quite a bit, this may look familiar, but I want to describe where I am. So if you can imagine, in April of 2020, this was a lawn. This was part of his mowed lawn. Our lovely neighbor Ian, who lets us farm with him in this space. Juan and I planted hundreds of cuttings of willow, and elderberry, and black currant. This was a $0 installation entirely driven by hardwood propagation. I'm going to link here to the video that shows this lawn context in 2020. And here we are a bunch of years later, and we're in skeleton mode of winter, but if you can imagine, in the summer there's pretty much no light that hits the ground anymore. And that's amazing in some ways, except what happens once you stop losing all the different layers of a food forest is you get less energy coming into the system, to my humble opinion, and I think there's more opportunity for things to grow underneath here. And so what I would like to do this evening is propose an experiment where I try to sow in crops that the chickens can eat. So this is our chicken summer run. You might see one or two wandering out here this evening. They love it when it's lush and green. And with these cutting back these plants to allow more light to the ground, how can we get greens to grow in the space? What does it look like to come through areas where I want to do hard pruning management anyway? These elderberries really need a good hard cut. The willows need a good strong cut in order to release energy for other things that are happening, the currents that are underneath. Can I sow, for example, brassica? I've got all these old seeds of miscellany kale and mustard. Can I sow them onto this bare soil, which is abundant right now after a long winter and the chickens scratching through? Can I sow that in, and as I walk on it, do some of the cuts on these willows to lay a really complex mat of chicken exclusion such that greens can start to come up? That's enough talking about it. I should actually get to it. And this will be a multi-part video. This is new to me as a concept. If this rings a bell as something that other folks have done, that in complex food forest context, fodder context that you've established, before you do your hard cuts, you sow in greens for animals that can browse them so long as the hard cuts, all the material protects the stuff long enough so that chickens can't eat it or ducks can't eat it. Have you any direct experience with that? Does it work? Start with just some seeds going through our drawers. Red Russian question mark from 2020. Okay, that's a great candidate to just use up that sack. All these saved seeds. I wouldn't be doing this with a $20 sack of seeds from somewhere fancy. This is Brassica SPP, maybe purple top turnip. I'm going to sow this into an area. There's already some debris on the ground. You can see I've got a handful of seed, pretty informal. I'm not going for crazy high density. What I'd like to do is lay down enough of this so that it can start germinating. We're going to freeze tonight and a thaw tomorrow that might draw the seed in. Very, very light scattering on the surface. Maybe I would do this with wheat. I'd love to hear from folks if you've got suggestions of other seed you've worked with in this way. That's a little handful of seed that if I just leave it, the chickens will probably find it. So now, how do I cover it up so it can green up? I've gone through this particular willow to the left of me, the east of me, for the cuttings that we need for trades and for shipping and things like that. So now I can go through and just head this whole plant back. I'm going to use a handsaw and really simply make some primary cuts. So here's one that has damage a little higher up, and I want to get renewal wood that's at a manageable height for us. So this is a good simple pollarding cut. Willow is really a joy to cut this time of year as the sap rises. You can see where there's some weird, what is this, by the way? It looks like sapsuckers are enjoying themselves. Let me know in the comments what you think this might be. And in the meantime, I'm going to lay this down and protect these brassica seeds. Maybe I'd throw a little bit more branch work on there, but that might be enough to actually keep the chickens out. I'll throw a few more, and then I'm going to go down this lane here, and in the space where there's blank soil, sow brassica seed, and then go through and do the hard cuts I want to do on these willows anyway. Good amount of seed under here, very chaotic looking. Chickens can wander around here, but they can't scratch too much, and same goes down this line. So leaving these cuts big and simple like this makes it very fast to move through it. I'm going to leave all the stem butts moving in this direction so that when the greens are really up in nice ways, we can reveal micro pastures of green to the hens by simply grabbing some of these branches and pulling them out and feeding them through this area over this fence, and where they can be woven into a brush wall that we started with our neighbor last year. There's a beautiful little silt trapping pond there, and there's a bunch of neighbor we wouldn't mind weaving our way out of, so we can take all that willow in long length and just weave a land basket around this once the greens are up. It's getting cold and snowy, so I want to actually get to work instead of talking about it more. But for now, let me hear your thoughts. So basic concept is taking an area, a woody agroforestry context, so all just started by cuttings that if we leave them alone indefinitely, they start to have issues, they break, they start to exclude diversity and other interesting companions in the space. So a lot of this needs to be cut hard. How do we undersow that to a meaningful catch crop that takes the nutrients of the spring and offers food to our hens, and then protect it in the meantime, and then eventually be useful as a woven wall? That's my idea. I think it's valid, maybe. I'm going to do this whole row behind me today, and then follow up in a week or two once the seeds germinate, if they do. In the meantime, any comments or questions, concerns, or affirmations if you've done something like this, I would love to hear about it. Early spring is a wild thing. It was sunny and nice just about 10 minutes ago. Now it's snowy, and it'll be way below freezing tonight. The seeds are in. I'm done. I'm going back by the fire.